Welcome, YouTube friends and family, to today's fallish edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So you'll notice I have Love Fall Ya All shirt on. Yes, I realize it's only July. I'm wearing my pumpkin and I think it's supposed to be a pumpkin latte coffee cup earrings with an orange headband and a little orange eyeshadow. So I am all ready to think about doing some gifts and crafts for fall, for Thanksgiving. So even though it's only July, why do I start now? Well, you're gonna have to stay tuned to find out my reason. Well, y'all, I want to first and foremost thank you all for your wonderful prayers and well wishes throughout my cancer journey that I'm still on. But on, let's see, today's Friday. So on Wednesday, I had a CT scan with the contrast to see how I'm progressing after having all of the radiation and chemotherapy. And I saw the doctor yesterday, and her words, and I quote, is, "You've had fantastic results." So I did get to see the scans. As a nurse, I was very interested. And because I've had the radiation, I will always have, I don't know what you would call it, scarring, like a dead mass in there from the big tumor, but it's half the size. It did shrink dramatically on the left lung, which is the bad lung, and the right one, it didn't uptake the contrast, so it's dead as well. So I started yesterday with my immunotherapy, which will be, it's an infusion. So yes, I still have my ugly port, and I'll tell you, I learned something about my port. This will go on once every 4 weeks for a year. It is not without side effects. So we'll just have to see how it is going along. But y'all, I mean, God is so good and so faithful to hear and answer our prayers. And I just can't thank y'all enough for what you've done to encourage me and to pray for me. So why am I starting fall things so early? Well, first and foremost, fall is my favorite season. And last year, even though I wasn't diagnosed with the cancer till March of this year, obviously I had the cancer then. And I noticed that I wasn't as enthusiastic about decorating, and I had a lot of fatigue that I couldn't really attribute to anything except age, and did not realize, of course, what was going on until much later. So this year I'm going to make up for it, and I'm going to start early. And the other reason is, y'all, if you like to do crafts and you want to gift things, you want to get a head start, if you want to sell some of the crafty things that I'll be sharing with you, you need to start early, because especially Dollar Tree, with the popularity of Dollar Tree crafts and even Dollar General, things get picked over very quickly. Hobby Lobby has a beautiful selection of fall things. They do not do Halloween because of their religious beliefs. Michael's does have both Halloween and fall. I just don't have a real good Michael's close to me. I have to go a distance to find a good Michael's. So what I'm working with right now is mostly things that I either already have or you lovely people have sent me. So before we get going, I do want to also apologize. Y'all, somehow I created a public wish list by request of some of you who said, hey, do you want to create a wish list for some craft supplies so that we can support your channel in that way? And guys, never feel obligated. You know that. I've never asked for money or things. But I thought, you know what? I can do more crafts with the support of you all. I mean, things like glue sticks and the rotary cutter blades and things like that. Well, somehow, y'all, some of my wish list stuff that I put in there to watch to see if it goes on sale, I put it in the wrong wish list. So some of the things that were in there were like my building sets that are like $150. And you know, I would never expect for you to buy and spend that kind of money. I've tried to keep things $20 or under, and there's things in there that are $5. And again, never any obligation for you to send me anything. But people have, and I'll be sharing that when we go to part 2 of this video, which will all be in one video if it isn't 3 hours long. All right. So again, my apologies. Somebody commented, hey, no, you should ask for things that you want. But guys, you know, I really don't want to do that. That's not what, to me, the wish list is for me. I know other YouTubers have very extensive ones. So what are we gonna do today besides yickety yak? Well, I am going to be making some pumpkin cranberry bread mason jars. So gifts in a jar. And I am going to do a couple, but I'm also going to make a loaf of the bread. So this recipe came from, and I will link it. And y'all, I apologize. I don't know how the crochet pattern was suddenly taken down, but it was. So I apologize about that. But at any rate, this is from rbitzer.com. So I'll just send you the link to the recipe because it's not my original recipe. So what we're going to do, first of all, is I am going to preheat my oven because I'm going to bake a loaf of this because, hey, we might as well have some pumpkin cranberry bread for ourselves. And instead of putting it in the jar, let's just eat it, right? So I'm going to preheat my oven to 350. Now, if you all know, I have a bi-level oven, and okay, I'll stop talking to myself here. Hold on, guys. On things that have to bake a very long time, what I've learned is just using the single oven, the top half. Things get really brown on the top and stay undone in the middle. It's an air circulation kind of convect issue. So I've taken out the middle thing. I'll move it out of the way shortly. But let's get started. So this has very easy ingredients. So the first thing we're gonna do, and y'all, I apologize, I am short of breath. You know, the question still remains unknown if I'm gonna need oxygen, and I do use oxygen when I leave the house. So we're gonna do 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. So you don't even need bread flour. I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving the house without my oxygen on days where we have poor air quality or high humidity. If I have a long walk, guys, I struggle. And that's just the truth of it. So I'm still needing some oxygen, and I may always, because everywhere I had that radiation, it destroys your lung tissue function. So I'm missing about 1/3 of my left lung. And I'm using 1/2 cup measures, so that's why I'm putting 3 in here. So, and I'm using the wide mouth mason jars. I think those just work better, but you can use narrow too. It doesn't really matter. And what we're going to do for part 2 of this video, which I think is pretty exciting, we are going to decorate up these jars. I'm going to do some fall one, and also one that's more Halloween focused. I know not everybody likes that. So this year for Halloween, I'm going to try to make my crafts half and half. So if you don't like scary, spooky Halloween, or you have convictions about it not being for you, totally understand. I see no problem with it for me, so we will have some Halloween things. All right, I'm gonna shake this out, and I put also the cup and a half in the bowl. Sorry, y'all. All right. Next, it calls for a teaspoon and a half of pumpkin pie spice. Y'all, I don't like pumpkin pie spice. The reason I don't like pumpkin pie spice is I do not like, let me think about that, yep, or half a tablespoon, sorry. I don't like nutmeg. So this is a me thing. Oops, and you try not to put it like all over your countertop like I just did. So for my bread, a teaspoon and a half of cinnamon, a scant teaspoon and a half, and I'm gonna try to kind of layer it towards the edges so you can see it. And then I am gonna add, you could add some cloves, you could add, I don't know if y'all can even see what I'm doing, allspice, which is what I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna put some allspice. Depending on the brand, you can use apple pie spice, because that many times does not have the nutmeg, but sometimes it does. So read your ingredients if you too are a nutmeg hater. I don't know why I dislike it so much, but I do. So allspice, let's see if it tells what it has. Ingredients, organic allspice. Okay, so that clears that up. I'm gonna put, about a quarter teaspoon of allspice, just to have a little bit more than the cinnamon. And I'm gonna use that to kind of fill in so the edges all have a little bit of a dark line. All right. Next, we need a half teaspoon each of baking powder. And guys, I disinfected my countertops and everything before I started. And baking soda. I do get asked pretty often about these containers. I don't know if this particular set is still sold. I did buy them from Amazon. I absolutely love them. I bought the labels from Amazon as well. So let's put our, let me double check, half a teaspoon of baking powder in each. And I do use aluminum-free baking powder. I know that Azure sells it, but I believe I got this particular one at Walmart. So it's not super uncommon or hard to find. But I like the lock and locks. They keep things very fresh, keep the moisture out so things don't lump up as bad. And we're gonna do the same with our baking soda. Baking soda is probably the one that has a tendency to get clumpy the most, but the clumps are at least pretty soft. Okay. Alrighty. Next, we're gonna add our half a teaspoon of salt. And, you know, people do ask me, like, why is there salt in, you know, sweet baked goods? And it does help in the rising process. And it also helps with flavor. I'll say our American palates are very used to salt. I am using Redmond's real salt because that's what I have. But any kind of table salt will work just fine. Now, let me kind of clear a little spot. And the next thing we're going to use is just some brown sugar. And I wanted to show you all. Y'all, look what I found. It is a 1950s milk glass coffee cup. I have just the ones with the pattern and no name, but I found one that said Frank. And of course I had to have it. And inside here, I'm smoking. Yeah, I'm smoking. Soaking my brown sugar bears, which you soak in water, and this helps keep your sugar from clumping and getting hard. I'm finding that because I don't eat nearly the sugar that I used to, and it's half a cup if I didn't say that. No, it's not. It's a third of a cup. I do need the brown sugar bears, and I take them out periodically because they'll dry out, and re-soak them to keep everything fresh. So let's put our brown sugar in. And same thing, guys. You can kind of take a knife or a chopstick or whatsoever and spread it around so that it looks more like a layer. Pack that down a little bit. You could use, if you have folks that you're doing this for that are diabetic. Now I'm going to tell you my preference. I like the Splenda brown sugar, but I will tell you that it is not sugar-free. It is just low sugar. They do have Swerve makes one that is sugar-free, but it is erythritol. So if your gift recipient is hypertensive or has high blood pressure, they may not want to consume the erythritol in any amount. I don't consume it, and I also don't like the taste of it. So I figure just eat the sugar in moderation. It also calls for white sugar, which is the next ingredient we're going to use. And you could use the Splenda cup for cup white sugar. Let's see. Okay. And if you're wondering where I got the canisters, the labels, pardon me, are also an Amazon thing. Let me see if I can shake that out a little bit. Yeah. The canisters are Walmart. They're Anchor Hawking. So I had to unjar, because I jar and vacuum seal my sugar. I buy it in 25-pound bags. Well, because I'm now diabetic, I don't use near the sugar I used to. So it's a little bit clumpy. So we're going to put in a cup of sugar. I'm going to get the clumps out as I go here. And again, you could use the Splenda cup for cup. Let me just shake that flat. So here's what we're looking like. I mean, the lines aren't perfect, but they're still cute. And we're going to decorate that jar up anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Let's get our second. I'm doing half cups, just it's a little easier not to spill. This is the easy part and fun part, and there's so many recipes. I actually have a book that has all kinds of gifts in a jar. Everything from savory to sweet treats, really neat stuff. But this one, I know a lot of people, that's just my oven saying I'm ready, like chocolate chips with pumpkin. I'm not a chocolate fan, and I do not like chocolate chips with pumpkin. But you could use that instead of the cranberries if that's your preference. Okay, so next we're going to add our cranberries. Now, Walmart does sell dried cranberries for whatever reason. They were out. I'm like, it's not even cranberry season. But maybe people are making a bunch of granola or something. So I ended up with the Ocean Spray brand name. They're gluten-free, peanut-free. It does have sugar in them. You can get the fruit sweetened or unsweetened. I just got the regular. So what we need here is 3/4 of a cup. So let's see if I can get this big cupper in there. And they're pretty moist, so I usually kind of press them down. It is not our last ingredient, so we may have to get a pickle packer. And if you don't know what a pickle packer is, I'll show you momentarily, to get our last ingredient in there, which is rolled oats, because these will compress nicely. And then when the gift recipient wants to bake them, they can just fluff them up. But yeah, I think we can, oh yeah, we can get those in there. So isn't that looking pretty? I was gonna make one for my sister. My sister is not a person that enjoys cooking at all, but I thought, well, she can just dump out a couple things and go. Well, come to find out, she's allergic to cranberries. I never knew that. So I guess she would just not get any pumpkin cranberry bread. Oh, goodness. So again, press it down. And I washed my hands well before we started, guys. Somebody will say something about that. But see, this makes, using the wide mouth really makes this a lot easier. So let's put our 3/4 cup in the batch we're going to cook. I think these would even make good muffins. I would think that the consistency would be just fine either way, but I'm going to do a loaf of bread. So let me set these aside. And the last ingredient is 1/2 cup of, and it does call for rolled oats, not quick oats. Y'all, most of the time I find either works. If it's a baked good, but I personally prefer to use rolled oats whenever I can, because the steel cut rolled oats, oh Lord, this is going to be really full, have some benefit to cholesterol. So that's what I use, and they have more fiber in them as well. So that's going to be extraordinarily full. But how pretty is that? That's probably the prettiest side. So let's get our last, put a 1/2 cup in here, and we'll finish our jar up with oats. And I do recommend a funnel for sure. And it's, sometimes the capacity of a wide mouth is a little bit better than the capacity of a regular mouth. I will say that. But you can really compress the brown sugar and the cranberries. So how pretty are those, y'all? So to seal it, before I knock this over, I am using a 4 jars new lid. So these jars had sugar in them. So that's one of the things I like about jars. You can wash them, reuse them over and over and over. You're not filling up the landfill. That's just oats, guys. So I am going to use my jar sealer. And it is linked below in the description box. A lot of my cooking tools and such, because I get so many questions, are linked below. So it usually takes about 30 seconds to get that jar sealed. So what else will you need? You're probably like, well, where's the pumpkin? Well, I recommend that when you gift this, you gift the jar of pumpkin. That may be something that folks don't have on their shelf. And sometimes, y'all, if you did not have your lid completely clean, your lid will not want to go down. And sometimes when the jar is really full, if you're gifting these right away, of course, you don't really have to seal it if it's something you think will get used, but I would like to seal this. You can also use the big sealer with the separate attachments that you hook to your big sealer. But I'm gonna see if I can get this to work, and if I can't, sometimes if this needs charged, it also won't seal. Okay. Please. All right, there we go. And you can see that the seal is popped down. And we'll put our ring on. So what else are we going to need? Well, we're going to create an instruction card, and I'm going to work through that with you. This is going to be a long video, guys, so I hope you'll stay tuned. I might split it into 2 parts so that you won't have hours and hours, but you'll be able to watch them both, you know, one right after the other. So what the tag will say is, to a jar of prepared mix, you're going to add a cup of pumpkin puree, not pumpkin pie mix, pumpkin puree, 2 eggs, half a cup of canola, and you're going to bake it at 350 for 45 to 50 minutes until a toothpick comes out clean. So I'm going to add those ingredients here. I'm going to pop our bread in the oven, and then I'm going to take you over and we're going to start creating a pretty look for our pumpkin cranberry bread in a jar gifts that we'll be using for, you know, any kind of a fall get together. It's nice to have a little housewarming or hostess type gift to give. So stay tuned. All right, y'all. Whoopsie. Here's our beautiful pumpkin cranberry bread, all ready to go in the oven. I did spray my pan, I didn't say that. So I'm gonna check it at about 40 minutes or maybe 30, just to be sure, but it's a nice full pan, that's for sure. So what can you do with the extra pumpkin? Let me just share, it's great to add to waffles or pancakes. And that's what I plan to do, is make some protein waffles. Pardon me, y'all. So into the oven, what I've decided to do so you won't have too long of a video, I'm gonna have part 1 and part 2. So part 1, we will finish the bread and give it a taste test. Part 2, we'll actually do some jar decorating, give you some ideas for ways that you can present your gift, your hostess gift, or just a gift to someone who's invited you for a meal in a very attractive container. All right, guys, stay tuned. All right, y'all, we have our gorgeous pumpkin cranberry bread. It baked at 350 for 48 minutes, so it said 45 to 50 till the toothpick came out clean. I have my 2 jars that in part 2, I'm going to show you a couple ways that you can decorate, one for fall, one for Halloween. But now the important part, and guys, I didn't share this, but it is in the description box. I used the USA pans. They just work out great. They make the meatloaf pan, which I love. They make the Pullman pan, which I have, and then their bread pans. So when you see the scored lines, that is from actually the pan. So it's still warm. Oh, yum. It's such a beautiful color. So here's what it looks like. And one of the things it did caution you on in the directions was not to over mix the batter, which is often true of any like sweet bread. And of course I'm going to put some butter on it because why not? All right, this is my little snack, which I'm having on my fine china, which means paper plate. So let me show you all. How yum does that, that look? So let's take a taste. Oh, wow. That is delicious, y'all. Delicious. Definitely can taste the pumpkin. Can taste that brown sugar sweetness, but it's not overly sweet. Let me get a bite with the cranberry. Y'all, this is a repeat. I might have to make a few more jars for my shelf. One of the things I liked about this gift in a jar is that it only made 1 loaf of bread, not 2. And it would be very easy to include your can of pumpkin. And then, you know, guys, there's no crime in going to a thrift store or even a Goodwill. A lot of times you can find bread pans at a very good price. I have bought a lot of bread pans at thrift stores. So you could include the pan, you know, depending on what type of gift or who you're gifting it to. If they're not normally a bread maker, I would have to gift my sister a bread pan, but since she's allergic to cranberry, she's going to lose out on this delicious treat. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Stay tuned for part 2. Y'all, I'm doing my best to get back to a much more normal schedule. I have to, you know, kind of be honest with you. I'm still having the fatigue from the chemo and the radiation. The doc told me, the oncologist, told me yesterday that, you know, a couple months worth of fatigue still to come, and, or from the end of it. And I'm about 2.5 weeks out. So my hair hopefully will stop falling out, y'all. I know you can see my scalp. I can't help it. I'm not a wig wearer. I'm going to try to I'm going to cut my hair into a bob, but not yet. I'm not brave enough to do it yet. So in the meantime, I'm just pulling it back because it's less noticeable. So I will see you all hopefully tomorrow with part 2. I'm going to take a little rest and then start working on part 2, which will include some of the lovely gifts that you all have sent me from my wish list. I greatly appreciate. So until I see you again, please do me a big favor. If you could smash that like button, y'all, it really helps. I've fallen totally out of the algorithm because I haven't been filming regularly. I appreciate those of you who have watched some of my older videos. If you want to see more fall crafts, I'll link at the end my Halloween playlist, which has all kinds of fall and Halloween crafts. But until I see you again, be healthy, be well, be blessed, and take care.